Hello everybody and welcome back. I'm meteorologist Andrea Myers, bringing you guys your daily hail forecast, sponsored as always by C3 Group, Merlin Law Group, American Contractor, and Atlas. Go ahead and check them out in the description to this video. So we've got a complex setup in OKC. I'm sure if you guys are in the city or around, you're probably eyeballing the forecast for today. There is a cap that's in place, but if it can break, there's a potential that we could get really large hail into today. So going to talk about that as well as the rest of the forecast. The North Plains in particular has a much likelier chance to see some pretty strong storms tonight. Hail, wind, tornado, all on the table for you guys. So going into the where and when of that as well. And then tomorrow, that whole front is going to shift south, and now there's potential that DFW could get hit with large hail, as well as parts of East Texas and the Mississippi Valley. So, getting into your forecast here in a second, but first, come see us at the Atlas All-Stars Stadium Tour, guys. It's going on until August 17th at a bunch of stadiums across the nation here, so find your closest city and come say hello to Derek. He's going to be the keynote speaker at that. There's going to be giveaways, there's going to be prizes, all sorts of fun stuff, so come say hello at any of those events this summer. Now into our current conditions, you can see that low just spinning away up in the north. Finally made it over the Rocky Mountains, and now we've got a cold front that's getting ready to sweep across the plains. So now down south, that's where we got a little bit more capping, and again, that's just a warm layer in the upper atmosphere that prevents storms from rising any further. So basically just prevents us from getting any severe thunderstorms that are pretty crazy or producing large hail. That's what the setup is in the south. Now in the northern plains, a little different, less of a cap, and we got that front moving through with the cold front and dry line combo. So with those three factors, likely going to see storms developing through Nebraska and Iowa here soon, spreading southward into Kansas and Missouri. So there's that cold front tracking along through the Dakotas and Nebraska right now, getting ready to push into the upper Mississippi Valley. 42 degrees in Minneapolis, all the way down to 81 in Houston. So quite a temperature gradient there across the nation as we get ready to see some chillier weather moving into this afternoon and tomorrow. 79 in Atlanta, 80 in Miami. You guys should stay in that nice warm weather for a little bit here. Now as for dew points, we've seen that Gulf moisture streaming up into the Central Plains and the Central Mississippi Valley as well. 52-degree dew points in St. Louis, 60 in Wichita, 66 in Dallas, so working up with those 50s and 60s into our storm risk area for today. The rest of us dry as a bone. So let's take a look here now, this setup. So we got our jet stream, we got our cold front moving in behind that with that low pressure system. So as that tracks into the area by around 7 p.m., there's that cold front through Nebraska and Iowa. Going to start to see storms firing along that and potentially producing some large hail. Now we'll continue to see that cold front sink down into the Central Plains, into Texas. We will have that disturbance, but can it overcome the cap that's in place is kind of what we're watching right now. So that's going to sink into Oklahoma and Texas by tomorrow afternoon, and then we'll see some storms now starting to fire along that cold front. DFW, that's when it could be potentially your time to see some large hail before that makes its way out of the area through your Thursday afternoon and evening into Friday, and then looking a lot chillier for the weekend once again. Now, as far as instability goes, there's plenty of it. Again, gonna sound like a broken record, it's just if it can overcome that cap. Now down or up north, plenty of instability in place, less capping, so any hail that does form in the Omaha area or basically along the Nebraska and Iowa corridor state line could potentially be pretty large. Supercell activity is expected to start at around 7 p.m. Now, as those move through, we're going to see those values start to decrease, but they're really holding strong through Oklahoma and Texas for tomorrow's setup when we could potentially see some large hail down that way. So for today, here's what we are showing now on one of our forecast models. Again, got those storms developing around 7 along the Nebraska and Iowa state line, moving their way into Iowa, and then we got a second round that forms up near the Lincoln area. All of those have all risks on the table, so large hail, wind, and tornadoes with any of those initial storms that fire in that area. Then they band out pretty quickly, and by 5, 6 in the morning, we got a pretty strong band of storms potentially heading into Missouri and out of Kansas and into like the Des Moines area, central Iowa, with some strong winds and potential for more tornadoes before they finally peter out. Then down south, if the cap breaks, here's what we've got, all right? So this particular model is showing that it is going to break, and if that does, got a little potential for some large hail forming in and around the Oklahoma City metro area by shortly after 5. Then that's going to move out, and we've got another chance of storms heading up into the metro at around 8 p.m. Now storms firing in southern Kansas as well. They're going to be very isolated, very scattered, but again, it's been consistent that if that cap does break, there is potential that isolated supercells will form around the Oklahoma City metro and track potentially northeastward into the area. So we do want to be prepared for that possibility, and then that line tracking through by around 6 a.m. tomorrow with less of a severe threat until it gets further south and more hail for you guys in the Red River region. So here's what that cap looks like, all right? So there's those storms forming. Again, that's pretty consistent up north, but this blue is going to be the cap down south, and it looks right now like there's potential that it'll build back into Oklahoma City and Dallas by around the time storms would be moving down into that area into this evening and tonight before it finally makes its way out tomorrow. So that's kind of the tricky setup that we're playing with today, but either way, across the board, it's likely that we could see baseballs somewhere today with this setup, likeliest up north, but again, if storms form in Oklahoma City, it could be pretty large hail with that as well. So we don't have a baseball on here, but just pretend tennis balls says baseballs. So here's our hail forecast for you guys for today, all right? Got this quarter swath extended all the way out into Illinois to account for the storms that are ongoing now that have a history of producing quarters, and then tracking all the way along down that cold front with potential to see some severe hail. So if you guys are anywhere along that cold front down south where that cap is in play, got to keep you in the low end for our risk. But if storms do form, again, between pretty much Wichita and like Lawton, you got a chance to see some really large hail, potentially upwards of 2 inches, maybe even baseballs. Then up north where we've got that low pressure meeting that cold front and that dry line all together, that's where we're likely going to see more like clustered storms, more organized, as well as less scattered. So Omaha, you guys probably have the best chance to see large hail up to baseball size in and around your area with the initial formation of those storms. Then they're going to track into Des Moines, tracking you down to moderate because it could be switching to a wind risk by then. And then same with Kansas City, leaving you guys at a low along with Davenport to account for that line of storms that should be pushing through at that time. So there you go, that's your hail forecast for today. Pretty much this hatched region is the likeliest to see hail with today's setup. So now moving into wind. Also got a chance to see some pretty high winds, especially on the north end of this system with that low kind of cycling through. So down south, again, low chances to see hail. Just take Casey off. I'm sorry, guys. I know Kansas City roofers are always like, but that's what we got for today. So if you guys are down south for wind, Oklahoma City all the way to Del Rio, you got a low chance once again. And then if you're up north with that line moving through, that's where you have higher chances to see some pretty gusty winds, along with any supercell storms or some lines that track through. And then last, speaking of supercells, there's your tornado risk. Pretty much the same area here, cutting off the southern risk down in Texas and just keeping us up north more of where we have less of a capping issue and an overall better setup. So Omaha, likeliest for you, but anywhere from Des Moines all the way down into Wichita Falls could see some high winds as well as potentially rotating storms with any isolated cells that track through. So be aware if you guys are in those areas today, that's kind of what we're dealing with. And then that front is going to continue pushing through the Ohio Valley, Mississippi Valley, Texas into tomorrow. Could potentially pack a punch on the south end. Now for the north end, we'll have some isolated storms tracking through by around 4 or 5 p.m., making their way into central Illinois, and then more cells through the southern part of Missouri. And then, as those continue off to the east, we'll see more storm coverage, but less storm severity as they move off to the east. So, kind of losing their steam as they form into a line into the afternoon and evening hours for the north end of our risk. Now for the south end, here's what our setup is looking like at this time, all right? 2 p.m., got that band of storms that's forming along our cold front. Any that stay isolated, again, could produce that large hail. The atmosphere's got plenty of instability in place if that occurs. Now as that tracks down to the south, there you go, DFW, 5 p.m., got this whole line of supercell storms forming just to your west with the potential to track into the city, and then got more out ahead of that through like Waco and all the way down to, I guess, just north of Houston there with potential isolated cells. And you know what that means. It just means potential for tornadoes as well as potential for large hail in that area. And then it really kind of lingers in there for a couple hours. So there we are by 7, still with those cells tracking through DFW and just south of it. Potential to see, again, some roaring storms as those pick up some strength before finally turning into a band once again, tracking through Shreveport, tracking through Jackson into your Saturday morning. So for tomorrow could potentially be a Texas kind of day. Today could potentially be a North Plains kind of day. So for tomorrow's forecast, here's, anywhere from Illinois all the way down into Texas could see severe hail, likeliest chance of it, and the likeliest chance for large hail is where we're getting those isolated cells through central Texas up into western Arkansas. So for San Antonio, DFW, Fort Smith, highest chance for you guys to get some hail in your area, but we're going to leave you at a moderate for right now, see what we have tomorrow. But Houston, Shreveport, Little Rock, Memphis, could be lining out as it tracks over you, again, producing more of a wind risk, so lower end chance for you guys. But if hail hits you, could see some quarters to $half tracking through. Then on up to the northern end of our risk, anywhere from Davenport down into St. Louis, and parts of central and eastern Missouri could also see some large hail from this system, tapering off in size once you get further north. Then for wind into tomorrow, going to see potentially some high winds along that line once again, so going to shift now our moderate risks to the places farther east that could be more impacted by that band of storms. So if you're in Houston, Shreveport, Little Rock, better chance for you guys to see some gusty winds higher than 60 miles an hour. San Antonio, Dallas, and Fort Smith still got a chance, but lower for you since you're going to see more singular cell storms. Then up into the north end, St. Louis, Davenport, and Chicago could potentially see some high winds as well. Then last but not least, for your tornado forecast into tomorrow, going to keep it pretty much where we're seeing now those singular storms forming. So any supercell activity that could be producing large hail also has the potential to produce tornadoes. So Fort Smith, Shreveport, Waco, Dallas. It's looking like you guys are kind of going to be the center of where those isolated cells are going to be tracking through. So you want to be on the lookout for large hail as well as tornadoes into tomorrow's forecast. So as usual, if you guys are in any of those mentioned cities for today and tomorrow, it's a great time to turn on those weather alerts on your phone and stay tuned to our pages. You can follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. Hit See First on Facebook so you never miss a live video. Then if you want to get in contact with us, you can scan that QR code up above me to get a demo of any of our products or to sign up. We map all severe storms live as they're happening, so it's a great way to keep up to date with what severe weather is hitting your areas as well as what kind. You can also contact us if you'd like at 855-334-4245. Email us at info@hailtrace.com or check out hailtrace.com for more details. And we'll keep you updated on your forecast today and tomorrow and every weekday at noon. But for now, I'm meteorologist Andrea Myers. Thanks for watching.